It is live.
Live and in concert. Welcome. So I had just started listening to another gun podcast.
Uh-huh.
Um, and I'm like 3 episodes in and I'm already sick of their intro.
Can you imagine how people feel about ours?
I know, like first I gotta do the talkie part, the pre-recorded, like you're about to listen to blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then they play the music, and then they run through like their opener and everything, and I'm like, "This is why I can't do a regular opening.
Yeah.
I get sick of this so fast."
So
So,
quick, dude. I
yeah.
I I've contemplated having an opening like the way we used to. And our song was okay. Like it
I
was
loved it.
fine. It was fun. I still have it.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I just prefer just winging it.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotta speak from the heart.
Yeah. So here we are speaking from the fart.
Speaking from the heart.
The fart.
Um, so for those of you who are, new or joining us again, donate. Let's just make that point. Donate. Send us your money. There's
Send us
no there's
money.
no easy, like, nice way to put this, uh,
Uh-uh.
that's polished, but we are raffling off a staccato
Correct.
and,
It's a
CS, is that the carry version? Is that the small one?
I don't know. I don't you know how much I hate the staccatos.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity was presented to raffle one off because we can't afford one, but
And
somebody
who's sponsoring this? Is this Kyle?
no, it's not Kyle. It's a private individual who would like to not say much
Oh,
about
okay.
so yeah, it's a private individual. Yeah.
Awesome.
And I don't to be honest with you, I didn't ask much quite much questions. I was like, "Fuck it, you got it.
Yeah.
If it's legit, we'll fucking do it." Um, so
Yeah. I hate the idea of the staccato, but to be totally honest, if someone gave me one, I'd probably be stoked about it.
it's just so douchey.
Oh,
Just so
yeah.
so
Yeah.
douchey. Oh boy. I'm the same way. The staccatos are sexy. I know why people like them,
Mhm.
but in terms of self-defense, I would never carry one for
No, not
self-defense.
for self-defense. No, I mean,
Uh,
um, yeah, it's like I have this AR-15 in 45, and it's suppressed and it looks awesome, but when I shoot it, I'm like, "This would be a terrible self-defense tool." So really it's just about the drip, so
Yeah.
which is fine. That
Gotta be douchey sometimes. It's funny when I talk shit in classes and I'm talking about shit, the Tacomas and all the douchery and all that shit, and then people get offended, and I pull out my douchery, and they're like, "What the fuck is this?" I was like, "I didn't say I didn't like it. I'm just admitting and
we just
acknowledging
gotta
this
be honest.
this shit's douchey."
Just gotta be honest with ourselves. Um, yeah. Somebody was, a very good friend of mine, best one of my 2 best friends since high school was, he was telling me, he's like, saying something about how he th he worries about what people think about him, and he's like, "Do you worry about what people think of you?" I'm like, "Kinda."
Kinda.
Like, I can get up and make a fool of myself and not really be self-conscious about it at all, but then I still wear T-shirts that are too small for me. So, like, yeah,
Too
I guess
fucking
I do.
small.
Yeah.
Since you
Um,
brought it up.
Gotta impress myself and everybody else around me with my, uh, dad bod, so
That's funny.
yeah.
Hilarious.
So let's talk about what's, going on with Denver County.
Oh, you wanna talk about Denver?
Yeah. Um, so if you are new to this and you haven't been keeping up, with the new concealed carry training laws that went into effect in August, of this year and a little bit in July of last year, it's been a lot of confusion, and we've been dealing with sheriff's departments who have not been following the law. Let's just put it bluntly. When it comes to implementing this new training system, especially around instructor verification, that's where a lot of the confusion has come from for the sheriff's departments. So we've been fighting a lot of battles. Pueblo County, Colorado or El Paso County. Who else? Douglas County or Jeffco, Weld County,
Summit County.
Summit County,
What's
La Plata,
the Clear Creek?
Clear Creek.
Yep.
And to be fair, some of these were settled and resolved with minimal effort. Like Clear Creek County was, there was a lot of asking questions, but then when we finally talked to the right person, like, no, everything's fine, no problems.
Correct.
But some counties have given more pushback, and lately, some of this pushback has been around the competition aspect, using competitions in order to meet the criteria. Because for all the changes that they made to the concealed carry training laws and what the concealed carry class must look like, they didn't make any changes to the qualification of a concealed carry competition,
Correct.
which I find hilarious. That they left that door wide open. But I think that's a consequence mostly of people who don't know what they're doing writing the laws. So
Correct.
and not even knowing what the current law was, and just focusing on the training aspect. So
Yeah, and this is true in many states, by the way. So I know we focus a lot on the state of Colorado because that's where we're headquartered, and I'm slowly trying to do stuff in other states and make sure we're aware of other states' laws. So this is actually true in many states. It's not just the state of Colorado where competitions will qualify you to obtain your concealed handgun permit, and they're all pretty much the same. It's basically participate.
mhm.
That's it. That's the requirement is participate, show proof of participation. Very minimal. There's no I've read up on several states and there's a few weirdo ones, but overall it show up no you have to place top 10, you have to have this score or anything like that cuz so yeah,
So Denver rejected somebody
correct.
on the basis of the fact that they interpret that it has to be more than one competition.
Correct.
And they also add in the stipulation that it has to have been within the last year.
Correct.
They had that the person needed to submit their actual scores.
Correct.
And then something else. I can't remember what the other requirement was. Oh, they wanted to know what the national recognized body was that was holding the competition.
Correct.
The competition or ensure the competitions were run by a nationally recognized organization as interpreted by your off or by Denver's office.
Denver's office.
Um, oh, and show participation specifically using a handgun.
Correct.
None of that is in the law.
None of it. The only thing the law says is show proof of participation in firearms competitions.
Firearms competitions.
Yeah.
Now, the competition, the concealed carry cup, is a handgun competition.
It's fucking called concealed carry cup.
Have you done any of the competition with like open competition, different firearms besides handguns?
No.
Okay. So Denver makes this rule. You contact them, say, hey, this is what we heard from the student. Can you confirm? And Denver actually responds rather quickly and says, yeah, we confirm all of that stuff.
Well, they only confirmed the that it has to be 2. Um, I don't think they admitted to saying the rest of the stuff.
Okay.
Am I correct? Are you reading
Yeah,
it?
you are correct. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
rereading it. So,
'Cause
um,
so it seems like now the only issue that they have is it's not more than 1.
so people, um, we've harped on this, but people kind of don't realize all the work, not only that we do, but other instructors do as well. All the administrative things around keeping this, keeping the organization running. And, it's kind of like I come, I get what I need, I leave, and then they don't acknowledge necessarily like the work that takes to keep the wheels on, keep the motor running. In this case, did the student reach out to you first, or
Ye
did they try to argue with Denver? Or
No, unfortunately, it's what usually happens. It's um they said no, so let's find a different way to get me qualified. Let's
so did I would guess that you kind of like address this issue at the concealed carry cup, right?
Oh,
Like,
yeah, for sure. That this is part of my admin speech. This is
mhm,
part of, like, when I'm talking about, like, here's the bathrooms and let's talk safety, let's talk about expectations. During that, I say, "Hey, this is relatively new to some of the counties.
mhm,
This has always been in the law, always, but nobody's really pushed the issue to get it for a permit because the classes were because we have to admit, it is what it is. People who seek out permits are the lowest common denominator.
mhm.
Like, I hate to say it, and if it hurts your feelings, it hurts your feelings. It is what it is. People who wanna get their permit wanna do the least amount of work. And, like, we've said this a long time ago. We've been saying this for a very long time. This is part of the reason why I don't like to do concealed carry classes. We continue doing them because it's a right. This is a whatever you want to call it, god-given right, a natural right. I was born with this shit. It's the government should not decide who gets permit. That's the reason why I continue doing it. I think that's the reason why you continue doing it. It's not because you believe in the fucking process. um so people were doing the classes, not the competition, because it was easier to do the classes before, not the competitions.
Mhm.
So here we are now where the competitions are easier, less barriers and shit like that. And we're not encouraging people to do the least amount of work. Um,
Well,
that's
but by definition, like, whatever you guys or whatever anybody decides to offer as far as, whatever people decide to offer, if people will come to it, like, there at some point, there is gonna be lowest common
yeah, yeah, yeah,
denominator,
yeah.
like, there's no way around that.
Correct. Yeah, for sure. Even if the standards are super high, it's still gonna be let's meet the lowest one, for sure. Um, so we started doing and by the way, we've been doing competitions for a while. It's not like we just in 2025 decided to start doing competitions. I mean,
Mhm,
part of my letter to Denver was, motherfucker, we get mentioned in Supreme Court briefs. Like, the fuck you mean? Who's the organizing? Because they kind of question
mhm,
our legitimacy as a nationally recognized organization. Like you don't just because you live under a rock, doesn't mean that we're not legit. So we've been doing this for a while, and we have these conversations at the beginning of class. Like, these people don't know, they're not aware. You're gonna have to educate them, advocate for yourself. And if it gets to be too difficult, we'll show you. I have a whole fucking video on how my process is
mhm,
on all that stuff. It's not super organized, but that's my process on how to advocate for oneself and how we advocate for you initially. It's quite a simple fucking process. I mean, tedious, but now with ChatGPT, like, it's pretty fucking easy. Don't rely on ChatGPT to do it for you, but tell it what to do and it will structure it for you.
mhm,
I'll show you my things. Like, it's basically me writing the three fucking paragraphs and I say, now just make it pretty.
mhm.
Like, that's all it is. So, like, in 2025, there's no excuse for these people not to advocate for themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think it kinda comes back to the focus on rights. uh I have a right. I have a right. I have a right. That means that nobody should be able to take this away from me. That means I shouldn't have to do anything to protect it. And that's not how rights work. Rights work when you take the responsibility to protect those rights. You have to accept that the reason why this stuff was laid down in the founding documents is because it was understood that people were going to try to take them away from you. So we lay out what they are and give people the opportunity to have a way to redress those grievances when they happen. So we can point to a document and say, "Hey, you are messing up. You are taking away my rights. We all agreed on this right here, and now you need to stop what you're doing." But that means you have to actually do something, because if you don't, then
Right.
that's just a piece of paper. It doesn't mean anything if you don't
Correct.
stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
Um, and like, I understand on a human level and on the laws of the universe level, people do tend to go with whatever's the easiest thing is to align with their goals. That's efficiency. That's the way the universe works. But you have to align your goals correctly. You can't just say, "I want to carry a gun, so what do I have to do?" You have to think to yourself, "What is the higher goal? What is the long-term
Correct.
goal?" And the long-term
Correct.
goal is that I'll be able to carry a gun or own guns for the rest of my life. So these are the things that I have to do
Correct.
to protect that. So,
Yeah.
and I want that for my children as well. And you know, it being completely realistic, I know that people aren't going to do that.
Yeah.
Um, but that doesn't mean that it's our job necessarily to hold people's hands. Um, I think that both of us do what we do because we are partly kind of selfish about it. Like, if I don't do it for this person, then that means I won't have the same protection for myself.
Yeah.
So I'm doing this because I don't want Denver PD to step all over me. Not necessarily. It's not about the individual student.
Yeah.
So there's a selfish reason right there.
Well, and our kids, even if
Right.
they partake in it or not, I think you and I are both kind of in the same boat where our kids are not as super into it as we are,
Mhm.
but they still have that same freedom that we have as long as we fight for it.
Mhm. It's
And
like any other resource that you hope to protect and leave to your kids, that, you have to spend the energy to acquire it, and then the energy to protect it or keep it, and then to pass it on. And that's hard objects, and that's also, ideas, and that's also rights. Like, it's everything. And I think
everything.
that we tend to kind of think that things will continue the way they have been. And again, that's another human thing. Uh, we don't like the idea that change is possible. That's why we're terrified of climate change. Oh my God, the weather might change. I,
Like it has historically.
yeah.
Uh,
So we'll see what happens with Denver. Next step, I guess, is to try
wait
to.
on the student. One of the things that they said is, and I respect it. I'm
Mhm,
not even mad at it. But one of the things they said is have that fucker reach out.
mhm.
I mean, they didn't say it like that, but they said have that fucker reach out. Like, well, why? Almost to a certain extent, like, why the fuck are you reaching out? Like, that's
Yeah,
that's his problem, and for privacy reasons, we're not going to discuss shit with, and that I respect um wholeheartedly, because
yeah,
I'd probably feel the same way if the cops came and like give me information about a student. Like, I'd fucking have him reach out, and I'll give him the information or
yeah.
her the information.
So, oh shoot. Oh, where have we won this argument so far? Adams
Uh,
County?
Adams County, and I think we made a video about this, and Adams County replied and said, "Yeah, we talked to our legal counsel, and this is correct." Now, this one we had. Oh no, I sent the letter. I sent the email. He didn't. He reached out, and then I did the work, and then they reached out to him directly and said, "Yep, our fuck up. You're correct. You don't need more than one." Um, Arapahoe County, I haven't heard anything back from them. I have had people from Arapahoe County after the first issue we had with Arapahoe County, similar thing. One dude reached out. He said, "Hey, things and reasons in Arapahoe County said this," and then I had participants from Arapahoe County. And I told him, "Hey, this is where we're at with the Arapahoe County." So and one of the ladies there was that competed was an attorney. And she's like, "Nah, we'll figure this shit out." And I have not heard back from them.
Okay.
So I'm right now, without knowing. I'm assuming that we don't have an issue in Arapahoe County, but I don't know. So the fact that those people, there was 3 of them, after our initial problem with Arapahoe County, have not reached out to say, "Hey, we still have a problem in Arapahoe County." I'm gonna go out on a limb and say that we're good in Arapahoe County.
Well, hopefully, Weld County has not had this problem, right?
Nah, they've
They've had
had
they had a different
different.
problem.
They had a different problem. Um, that's the one in Weld County. Actually, probably the one that frustrates me the most. It's a pretty small one, and it doesn't seem like it affected a ton of people. It might have just been an isolated incident, but it's a pretty frustrating one. So I have an old student who went and took classes with somebody with a different instructor up north. Um, and these people are, one of them is an attorney, one of them is the instructor, so they kind of tag team it. And they're in Larimer County. And she took the class, went to go apply. They're like, nope, we don't know who these people are. They're not verified in our county. And she showed me the emails. She sent the emails and he's like, no, you guys are full of shit. Here's the law, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, have the instructors reach out. And then the instructors, one being a fucking attorney, was like, nah, we'll just go get verified there. And then that'll solve everything. So it's just like you're a fucking attorney and you know they're like, you admit like you are being presented and you know that they're doing illegal shit. If this is what Weld County was in fact doing.
Mhm.
I seen the emails, so I don't know if there was a confusion. I don't know because I haven't been denied. My certificates haven't been denied in Weld County. I know a few other instructors that I reached out to, and they're like, "Nah, we haven't had any issues in Weld County, none whatsoever." So it's weird that it happened to these instructors, and one was an attorney.
Yeah.
So super weird.
Well, all kinds of things are possible. Even, like between the two of us, when we talk about things and share things that have happened, I'm sure sometimes we're not getting the correct picture,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know. So it's very possible that this person just took it on themselves and said, "Oh, I'm not verified in that county. Maybe I need to get verified in that county." And then like put that burden on themselves. Like who knows?
Yeah,
These things can happen. So
it's
um
crazy.
so that's why, I mean, we're trying to be proactive, but it's also at the same time why a lot of times if the problem doesn't present itself again, we're going to go ahead and assume that it's solved because there's a lot of wasted effort in trying to track down things that we find out aren't really true, you
Correct.
know. Um, so that's why it was so awesome that what's her face took it on herself to deal with Clear Creek County
What's her
because
last name?
I'm trying to find that email. Uh, she's an instructor.
Let me find the message.
Yeah.
I bet it's because I think it is important for us to kind of recognize her work. I did give her a shout out on Facebook, but for the few humans that don't have the Facebook, man, I haven't had time to get into this shit. I'm scared. Um, Cindy Stout, uh,
Stout.
Stout,
Yeah.
Staudt.
Or
Um,
Stott. Maybe it's Stott.
Stott
Yeah.
instructor. I'm gonna post up her info. She runs a gun training company. It's called it's all weird. I'm in the new setups and everything's fucking flipped around. Um Took-a-doo. Here she is. Colorado Handgun Training is her company. She keeps saying I'm trying to retire, and she does this part time, and I'm not liking the fucking timer here, but whatever.
Can't have everything.
Can't have everything. And she she reached out, and it was more of a, "Hey, just FYI, what the fuck's going on with Clear Creek County? Have you heard anything?" And we got it connected um with Brian, and I think they had a conversation, and the student was like, "Yeah, I'm fucking ready to fight. What Clear Creek County is doing is fucked." She was super proactive, and here's the thing that I appreciate. I after I she reached out to me, I kind of felt bad over a post that I had made. I I still I still believe it, and I said any instructor who profits off of the concealed carry process is validating the process,
Mhm.
which I wholeheartedly believe. And I was like, "Fuck, this lady's working her ass off for her student," because that's rare. That usually instructors are like, "Yeah, I don't know what to tell you."
Yeah.
I've heard that, and this lady's like, "Nope, this what these motherfuckers are doing is wrong."
Mhm.
And then she told me how much she charges, and I was like, "God damn." She's like, "But honestly, right now, after I pay for my room rental at the range and I pay the range fee, she takes home like 40 bucks."
Jeez.
Yeah, so it's really the ranges that are raking in. Um, the ranges are the ones that are making most of that money, because it's room rental where she's doing the 4 hour class,
Mhm.
or 6 hour probably. So she's having to rent the room, and then she's having to pay for the range fee and all that shit. So she's like, "Yeah, I take 30-40 bucks home." So for $40, she drove her happy ass to the range, did the class, did all that stuff. Clear Creek County rejected her student because of a misunderstanding, and she was fucking on it. She was on it. She didn't take no shit, and she was one of the ones where she finally got a hold of the correct person. She's like, "Nope, it's the new guy fucked up. The new guy don't know shit." Now we don't know if that's true, but we'll pretend like it is and
It's
give him.
very likely considering a new administrative process that didn't have
Correct,
a lot of guidance.
correct.
So,
So we'll just say Cindy did the thing and didn't accept defeat, and she
mhm.
was ready to fucking fight for $40.
Yeah.
And it's not even the 40, right? Like we say it's the 40, or I say it's the 40, but it's the fucking principle. It's
Well, I think that for the vast majority of firearms instructors, they are doing the training that they do for the principal, like, because 'cause they're not making a lot of money,
no.
doing it. They all have other jobs. They all, moonlight doing the instructor thing, and, we know from experience, like, it's hard to pay all the bills once you actually get into this,
Yeah.
and, so, you get your, like, YouTube famous ones, instructors, and yeah, they're making a living, but most of them make their livings doing instructing while they also do something else in the industry. You know, lots of marketing or partnerships and things like that. So
Selling their soul.
selling their souls.
Dude,
Mickey,
speaking of selling your soul, I came across some of our fucking um statements that we got from Delta Defense, and I was like, "Oh, ah, ah." I was about to cry. I was about to call him up again, but like, "So my soul is up for sale
yeah.
once again."
Mickey Such from Carry Trainer, he has like all kinds of marketing things that he does with his training company, selling coffee and gun lube and like all kinds of stuff. And I think
He's a
that's
salesman.
he's a salesman. He's
Yeah,
a good salesman.
correct.
All the marketing he does is just him and he talking about it and doing his,
Yeah.
setting up his promos and everything. But I had a chance to talk with him about doing some marketing, and dude was pretty cutthroat in the conversation that we had. And so,
Yeah. You kinda
um,
have to be.
yeah, you have to be
You
if you
have to
want to
be.
be, if you wanna live off of this,
Yeah.
you have to be cutthroat in ways that behind the scenes make sense. But if you saw him out in public, you're like, ugh, but that's business
It's
in general.
business. It's
So
fucking business, dude.
um so yeah, all right. I think we've beat that to death. I wanted to talk about a couple videos that I have watched in the last couple of weeks. One involves some people we know. Chris Lyles has a podcast that he's doing called Locked, Cocked, and Uncensored, I think.
Yeah, he's doing that with Pivotal Defense and Tony Simon.
And Tony Simon.
Yeah.
And they had Mychael Waller on their last episode. And Mychael Waller, for those of you who don't know, he has a training company out in, I think, in Indiana now, or maybe it's not in Indiana, maybe it's in Tennessee, but he was in the Chicago area. And I met Mike in 2018, I think, at Kevin Dixie's Train and Learn event. And then you met him through various people. He was going to come to the IDS instructor course in Colorado a few years ago. He ended up not being able to make it because he had a self-defense shooting right before he was supposed to come. And he had a separate self-defense shooting the day after I met him out in the Chicago area. Actually, both of these events happened in or around Chicago.
Yeah.
And so in Chris's podcast, he talked about both of those events in the most detail that I've ever heard him talk about them in. The first one was kind of made the news a little bit. It was a big deal because he was represented under US, well, not representative, but he had USCCA and called an attorney and got one and got it all taken care of. And so USCCA put him up on their, one of their videos to talk about his self-defense shooting. And so he talked about kind of what happened, but in this podcast, he talked in detail, like moment to moment, everything that happened before, during, and after that shooting, and before, during, and after the shooting he had in the bar outside of Chicago.
Yeah.
And one of the things that he said when he was talking about it was he was talking about how he presented the gun and shot and why he did it in the first shooting. And he was talking about, firearm fundamentals and training and how that helped him or didn't help him. And he mentioned that he remembered pointing the gun and firing, but he never remembered looking at his sights. And I think it was Tony said, maybe it was the other guy from Pivotal Defense said, were you looking through the gun? And he kind of had a light bulb moment in that conversation. He's like, yeah, I was looking through the gun. It was like the gun was an extension of my eyesight, but not using the sights.
Correct.
And his first shooting, he said, happened at about 15 feet, 10 to 15 feet, which falls into,
Right.
Tom Given's data, most likely distances. But what I found interesting is that he scored I hate saying scored a headshot, but like that's kind of like the verbs we use. He scored a headshot on the bad guy in the first shooting, not using his sights.
Correct.
Now he missed a few shots too. So, but it was a pretty dynamic shooting. He was trying to move, and the guy who shot at him was moving, and they were both moving towards cover, concealment, position of advantage. But it happened very fast. He said that the guy basically accosted him, and he knew that this was a problem. Like there was no question that this was like a gang member confronting him for being in the wrong neighborhood. So he knew a confrontation was imminent. But he didn't draw and shoot until the other guy had already drawn on him. And it was in his mind, he was like, this needs to happen. This is why I'm doing this. I have no other choice but to make this decision right now.
Correct.
And who knows if he did or not. We're not in his shoes. We can't really evaluate that decision. But he was being shot at while he was shooting. The other guy, he said, emptied his entire magazine at him. It was 15 rounds, which, by the way, he's not allowed to have the 15-round magazine.
Somebody
And
should have told him.
yeah, Mike said he only had the 10 rounds because that's what he was allowed to have. So he did shoot to empty, but the last shot that he fired was the effective shot that stopped the encounter. So he shot to slide lock. If he had needed one more round, he wouldn't have had it. And I don't think, if I recall correctly from that conversation, I don't think he had a reload handy for
Yeah,
that. So when we talk about the need to reload in a self-defense shooting, one of the things that affects that is most people don't actually carry an extra magazine.
correct,
So it's not that you shouldn't learn how to reload and everything. We just have to understand the more shit you carry on your body, the more effort it takes, more
correct.
than likely at some point you're going to be carrying the minimum of what you think you need, not the maximum.
Yeah, and um, this is where it becomes difficult to convey a message to people who just want to meet the minimum standards is because I'm sure you'll talk about Waller's second,
Mhm.
where he probably didn't go to slide lock
He actually did, go to slide lock, and in the second
again,
shooting, he had even less rounds in the gun, but he did have another magazine in his pocket.
but he didn't go to slide lock.
He did go to slide lock, but he didn't need to reload.
So, yeah, this is going to be interesting. So this is where it becomes very, very weird, where that it might just be the anomalies
Mhm.
because you get a lot of people who are like, well, capacity, I want capacity. Now this is reinforcing those people that are like, I just need more capacity. It was like, well, was it the moving and shooting historically, and you shared a video with me a long time ago that's did a worldwide study on moving and shooting sucks balls. Like it's better to just plant yourself and then shoot.
Right.
There's no benefit to moving and shooting. So we talk about the need to shoot. Had he planted himself, and I know you're scared, you're trying to improvise at that point. You're like, I don't want to get shot. I'm actively being shot at. So you're
Right.
fighting that response of like, if I stop, I'm probably going to be hit. So there's so much fucking at play here with the brain. Um, but this is where a lot of people would compromise a more carryable gun for a more have more capacity or have a second magazine, which is probably the route that I would go is
Yeah.
have the
And in
second
the
magazine.
second shooting, he went to slide lock, but based on the way he described it, it sounds like he maybe didn't need to go to slide lock, meaning the first few shots conveyed the message effectively, and the bad guys were making their exit and their escape. Um, but they were also sort of kind of trapped where they were. And
Yeah,
so they couldn't just run. They actually had to go through two sets of doors to exit the bar.
yeah. This is
So
where the two dudes came in and had airsofts, right? And we're
one of them had airsoft, and that was the one that pointed the gun at Mike in that moment when he decided to shoot.
yeah.
So, um, so when we talk about how many rounds do you need, we have to define what need
What the
means,
need is, yeah.
right?
Yeah,
Need means that you shoot until you perceive the behavior changing enough that you don't need to shoot anymore.
correct,
That's the subjective need in that moment because
correct,
perception is part of that
correct.
definition of need. And then there's the objective need, which is if you go back and watch it on video, you'd say probably 1 round was all that was needed
Correct.
because the dangerous person there didn't even have a gun. Like, he
Yeah,
had what everybody thought was a gun, but
correct.
it wasn't a gun.
Yeah.
Um, and so when you're talking about data and when you're talking about how we train and probability and everything, we have to acknowledge the subjective part of it with the objective part, and that's hard
Have
to
to.
do in a nuanced way.
Well, in training in a static range, because I don't give a fuck how you train. I don't give a fuck if you use sim rounds, if you use it's not the same.
Mhm.
It'll never be the same. It's similar, but it's not similar enough to bypass that very unique feeling that you're going to have at that very moment.
Right.
And this is where I always argue this idea when people are like, "Well, you fight like you train." Like, no, you probably don't, because I'm sure the way Waller missed It seems like he missed a few the first time at the range. He's probably never missed that much.
Yeah. In fact, I have a video, um, of him and I shooting against each other in a little friendly competition the day before the shooting, and we were both shooting really well in this little friendly competition, no
Yeah,
misses,
no misses.
uh, and we were about the same distance. We are about, 4 yards, 5 yards away from the target, and yeah, so it was like, yeah, great shooter, and then missed most of the rounds in the actual fight.
In the actual fight. And by the way, a lot of people are gonna be like, "Well, it's because the stress and the adrenaline." I was like, "No, no, no, like, study this. I encourage you guys to please study this. Your cortisol, your neoepinephrine makes you better." So it's actually the fact that he had the neoepinephrine, that he was able to perform even though it was kinda shitty, and I'm sure
Mhm.
he'll admit it. I'm sure he wasn't happy about missing a few shots. Um, it was actually the neoepinephrine that that had him do as well as he did in that moment because he didn't get shot. He was
Yeah.
getting shot at. He had his girl with him, his daughter or his son.
His son
His
his son
son,
was present. Yeah, his son was standing in very close proximity
yeah.
to him when that happened.
So he's worried about his fucking son. He's like his shit is all over the place. It has nothing to do with the adrenaline. The fact that the adrenaline was flowing, and again, I encourage you guys to study this shit. Adrenaline is there to help you perform. Like you really think whether you believe in evolution, whether you believe in Jesus and Allah, whatever the fuck you believe in, you really think whatever it is made us for survival is going to add a little chemical in there to
To
not
make you
have
suck.
to make you suck? Like
Yeah.
that's stupid. Like that's dumb. It's designed to make you better. So we would argue that Mike Waller's alive because of the neoepinephrine and because of the cortisol.
Yeah.
That's why he's still alive. Um, but anyways,
Yeah, and it sounds like the last shot he took in that first encounter, that headshot, the bad guy was essentially giving him the only target he could get was the head.
yeah,
So we're talking about a really small margin for error here. Um, and he was able to, once he got that opportunity, take that shot and get the hit. Um, and in the second shooting, um, I think part of that subjective decision to empty, or the subjective need to empty the magazine, was to establish like an overwhelming dominance in the fight so that they wouldn't get the opportunity to fight back.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the
because
the
they were trapped in a place.
Right. Nobody could leave. There were multiple people involved,
Yeah,
multiple bystanders involved,
correct.
and the it's interesting in the second encounter, he had 2 opportunities to start the fight, and both opportunities he decided it wasn't necessary, it wasn't worth the risk
Yeah,
to start. It was like the last straw was as these 2 bad guys were leaving, and he was, prepared. He had drawn the gun in the second opportunity, or the last opportunity. He'd drawn the gun, but he wasn't going to use it until the bad guy turned around and saw him drawing, and then decided to point his airsoft gun back into the crowd of people. At that point, Mike was like, okay, I have the advantage now. I'm going to use the advantage. And so very dynamic, very chaotic situation, and risk benefit decisions being made
and the
based
second time
on.
he was just there to meet a friend, right? Just to say
Yep.
hi. The
Yeah.
friend owns the bar, if I remember correctly,
His friend didn't own the bar. His friend was a regular at the bar,
and he was just
and
there to say hi.
yeah, the
Yeah.
way he described it is this is a very locals only bar. In fact, he felt kind of weird walking into this bar as a black dude in a kind of a white area of Illinois at almost midnight to meet this guy. And things worked out as far as like in the time that he spent there. people were accepting of him and he was having a good time and everything. That's why he ended up being there at closing time, because he originally had planned to only be there for a short amount of time, and he ended up just staying and hanging
Yeah.
out and talking and stuff. But this was a situation where there were a lot of moving parts. There was somebody else in the bar who was actually armed. She had the gun in her purse, but then the purse was taken from her, and there goes that gun. And he didn't know about that at the moment, but like that's, just adds more layers of like what could have happened, or,
Correct.
um, and so I encourage you guys to go listen to that, because I think it's an opportunity to just listen to somebody's mental processes that took place in the lead up to both of those encounters, as well as some of the aftermath stuff as well. And
What is the I always forget what the podcast is.
it's called Locked, Cocked, and Uncensored, I think.
Just so I can pull it up here for human. Oh, I got a bunch of naked people. Yeah, I'm not kidding. A bunch of Pornhub is what.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yeah. I
Google
wouldn't
it.
Google that. I would go straight to YouTube and look it up.
I don't know why I googled that shit, and it's a bunch of porn. That's not what I wanted. Well, you look it up on YouTube.
Yeah. Locked, Cocked, and Uncensored. And it's the latest episode. So somewhere, it posted in the last couple weeks or so.
Yeah,
And yeah, so just some interesting lessons, I think, on that subjective level, as well as, actual data points for a self-defense shooting that we can add to the pile of data points. And Mike, it's kind of funny because Mike is very nonchalant about this stuff. And I don't mean that in a mean way. I just mean like some people are like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it. Some people, it triggers things when they talk about. I've talked to people about their own self-defense encounters. There's a lot of like fear and apprehension and post-traumatic stress, I guess you could say, around it. And he doesn't really communicate that. However, at the same time, he talks about the fact that after the first shooting, he's basically been in counseling since then. And he still has nightmares about it, and his son still has nightmares about it.
yeah,
And, so I think it's kind of like this, I accept what happened.
yeah.
I'm glad I won, but I'm not trying to glamorize it. I'm just trying to share what I learned from it,
Correct.
you know. Um, and in my interactions with Mike, he is like a very grounded stand-up guy, especially considering how young he was the first time I met him. Very mature, good dude. I like him a lot. So,
Yeah.
all right. So the second video that I wanted to talk about is Colion Noir put out a podcast, and it's called "The Two Types of Gun Owners Most Likely to Shoot Themselves," and it's basically it's basically like a gun safety video, and it's
Okay.
talking about uh, experience and how experience can be a net negative and a net positive around firearm safety, which I like the premise of
Yeah.
that. But I think that most of the conclusions that he reached in the video were wrong. And I'll give
Okay.
you an example. He classifies gun owners as beginners, and then intermediate, somewhat experienced, and then expert or lots of experience. And right off the bat, I wouldn't equate lots of experience with expert.
Correct.
And we see this all the time in classes where people have grown up around guns and they've spent an extraordinary amount of time with firearms, and yet have some very unsafe habits that they've built.
Well, I mentioned this in my classes when I talk about the whole expert, the warrior expert theory.
Mhm.
Like I'm fucking amazing at turning on the lights.
Yeah.
One could argue that I have in my family the most experience with turning on the lights. I know how to flip a breaker. Like when that shit fucking blow a fuse or whatever, or the breaker breaks, I know how to fucking flip that bitch.
Mhm.
But the shit that happens between the in the wall between that fucking breaker and the switch, like if it were to fry, I have an understanding of the concept, But I would just call somebody who knows what the fuck they're doing with those
Yeah.
wires, because now you gotta think about 12 gauge wire and 16 gauge wire and, like, why one over the other one and all that shit. So I have experience with lights and electricity. Doesn't mean I'm an expert
Yeah.
in electricity.
I've been using electricity since I was old enough to turn on a light switch, but that didn't stop me from electrocuting myself while I was trying to fix my dryer. Um, 'Cause yeah, so familiarity does not equate with expertise.
Expertise, yeah.
And the point he was trying to make was that it's easy to get complacent about things when you've spent a lot of time around those things. And I do think that that's true, but I would say that complacency reflects a lack of expertise, not it's not a measure of expertise. Because if you're handling a firearm, then part of the definition of success with the firearm is that there are no negative outcomes. And if you are complacent because you have so much familiarity with it, then that means you're ignoring safety,
Yeah.
which means you're not an expert. So I have kind of a relevant example of that with going back to electricity. I worked a job where I had to learn how to drive and drive forklifts, and then as part of that, you have to learn how to change batteries on forklifts.
Okay.
And you're dealing with quite a bit of electricity, and you're dealing with equipment in various states of disrepair. So these industrial sized battery chargers, if you make a mistake with one, that could be it for you. Like there's no GFI switch on these. And when I was learning, there was a guy training me, and his name was Bob. And
Fucking Bob.
fucking Bob. Um, and Bob was this crusty old, lifer in the warehouse.
Yeah.
And we get up to learn, to change the batteries, and he's talking me through the steps, and he says, "Take off your jewelry." And I'm like, I don't know why. So he's like, you will weld that wedding ring right to the battery if you don't take that off. And I'm thinking, well, he's probably teaching me this because I'm new and, like I'm kind of taking it for granted, but I'm doing what he's telling me to do. And sure as shit, the first battery we changed, the fucking thing arced when I went to plug in the new battery. And he looked at me and goes, "And that's why you take your jewelry off." And I would say Bob is an expert because even though he's done this a million times, he recognizes the risk and he doesn't take unnecessary risks.
Yeah.
And he models that behavior, and he tells you like this is where you get in trouble with this stuff. And Bob never welded anything to the battery. Bob never had an accident where he was injured on that because he took that safety seriously. And every time he followed the right safety protocols to keep himself from getting injured. So lots of experience, but also the right thinking about safety around
Right.
that object. No
Yeah, 'cause
compromise.
how many people would compromise some safety to do it faster?
And that's what we see with guns, where with your trigger finger, it takes effort to keep your trigger finger away from the trigger when you're doing a reload.
Yeah.
Because as your hand starts to move around the gun, it's normal for your or your trigger finger to start drifting towards places on the gun that give you better leverage on the gun,
Yeah.
which happens to be the trigger. And so, and Colion was making the point that he knows he's got to keep his trigger finger off the trigger, but he finds that the more expert, to use his words, he becomes with changing magazines, the less careful he is about keeping his finger high and away from the trigger because he knows not to touch the trigger. So he's using that familiarity as a reason why to say it's okay if I'm lazy with safety because I know what I'm doing. And
Correct.
that's not really an expert approach to it. Expert approach would be to be consistent with where you keep your finger on the gun. Um, is is this we're not doing live, right? So I can handle a gun here.
Yeah, we're recording.
Okay. So actually I'm going to use a fake gun. So the point that I'm trying to make is we want to keep our finger here on the gun when we're doing everything, including changing a magazine. And even though my grip has to change a little bit, I'm still keeping it up on the where the slide meets the frame. But what we see tends to happen is people will start to drift their finger down here, and they're like, I'm not touching the trigger. I'm not touching the trigger. I might
Correct.
touch the trigger guard, but I'm not touching the trigger. But the more you get focused on the task and the more speed you focus on the task, the more likely your hand is just going to go to a more efficient place on the gun, which is right here.
Correct.
And I've seen this with people who tell me that they've been shooting guns their whole life. And so the point I'm trying to make here is if you consider yourself an expert, you have to look at the entire picture and not
Correct.
just how familiar you are with the tool, but how familiar you are with the risks and how you manage those risks and how consistent you manage those risks.
Well, the warrior expert theory, the wet, the wet.
Oh, for my day job, we're working on something, and the acronym on it is WAP. So I'm saying WAP on like conference
Instead of
calls.
WAP.
WAP.
So the warrior expert theory is a very basic understanding that the more realistically and frequently you train, the more likely you'll be able to use the power of recognition to more efficiently respond during a dynamic critical incident. So it's the recognition of and the response to it. It's not knowledge. It's
Mhm.
not how much to. I mean, it's a byproduct, right? Having the knowledge. Oh shit, I shouldn't do this because of it. But it's having a response to something you recognized.
Right. And then another element to this whole equation with Colion Noir is that the dude has God knows how many subscribers, um, and 3.17 million subscribers, and he's been a gun guy for I don't know 12, 14 years.
Uh,
So lots of time and lots of attention on him. So people are going to equate the the following he has and the years he has doing it as an authority on the
correct,
issue. And
correct,
I'm not saying that he doesn't know anything, and I'm not saying he doesn't know how to be safe. I'm just saying that the message he's conveying here is going to be accepted as fact purely based on attention that he has and what he backs that attention up with years of experience. And that's not the right way to look at it. The right way
correct,
to look at it is find out what the objective facts are and how to present and learn those things
correct.
and apply those things.
Yeah. I had a student, it's very rare, who asked me like, "What the fuck makes you the good guy? What or the good instructor, the better
Mhm.
instructor, the best instructor? Like, what makes you?" And one of the things well, what I told him is like, "'Cause it's not me. It's the information is provable. Like, it's facts. Like, I'm sharing facts. I'm merely that vessel that is translating the information and giving it to you.
Mhm.
Like you can't refute that. When I start to add my own understanding of what everything is, that's when you have shitty communicators, shitty presenters, shitty or conveyors of information.
Yeah.
Is I'm adding my own understanding to it.
I'm sure I don't do a great job of this, but I try when people are asking me questions, when I'm venturing into the area of opinion, to put out a disclaimer that this is my opinion and I can't necessarily back this up with facts.
Correct.
And I'll tell you how I got to this opinion, but I want to make it clear that I'm not presenting factual information anymore. I'm interpreting this information
Correct.
in a way that I think makes sense, given that I don't have enough information
Correct.
to back it up with facts. And we all have to do that. You can't get around having to do that. There's no way you can know everything and be able to apply that perfectly to every situation. But where we do have those facts, we should be using them. When those facts are
Correct.
available to us, using anything other than that doesn't really make any sense,
Correct.
especially in a high stakes situation like handling firearms and using them to defend yourself. So,
Correct.
um, So I'm not like shitting on Colion in this, but I am trying to point out the risks of taking people's words for things when they can't back them up with facts. When you hear things like the way I do it, yeah, like that should set off a red flag in your head. Wait a minute, why are you doing it that way, and does that actually make sense?
Correct.
Um, and and then his other point was that beginners tend to be dangerous because they're not aware of the risks, which I do agree with. I think in general, when you are a beginner, you don't really know where all the risks are. But that doesn't mean you don't have the right attitude about it. And the right attitude can be just as important, which
Correct.
is if I'm new to guns and I understand that they are dangerous and that they can cause significant harm with little effort, then I'm probably more likely to be very careful and ask for guidance before I do something because I
Correct.
recognize the ignorance and say, I don't know how to do this thing and I know it could be risky. So show me how to do it.
Correct.
Um, and his point, one of his points was that the least dangerous gun owner is the one in the middle who has learned some things and also understands the risks. I'm like, I don't really know if you can say that either because we know with the Dunning-Kruger effect that you learn a little bit and then your confidence level seems to go way up. And that's going back to facts, that's a demonstratable, repeatable psychological phenomenon around competency where we tend to overestimate our abilities once we learn a little bit about the thing that we're trying to do.
I just had one this past weekend. I think it was this past weekend. Shows up. He's like, "I'm just gonna tell you right off the bat, I'm probably the guy you don't have to worry about today." I was like, "Oh, then I will worry about you." And I told him, I was like, "Nope, I will worry about you then."
Yeah.
He's like, "Nope, I got a farm and I have a range." It's like, "Okay." Like that's like and he's like, "I was in the army." It's like, "Oh, okay." Was like, "That's fucking incredible." But that's the middle guy.
Yeah.
To me, that's the middle guy.
Right.
He's got some information, and no doubt he knows his guns. No doubt he knows how to do a reload. He wasn't incredibly dangerous, but by no means would I have trusted him in the class without like I wouldn't have trusted him. Like I, it's not like he was dangerous or anything to that effect, but he wasn't super awesome. Like there
Mhm.
was things that I needed to keep an eye on,
Yeah.
especially as we started doing lateral motion and shit like that, like for sure. But that's the middle guy. That's the guy that says, "Don't worry about me. I know a few things. I've watched a few YouTube videos. I've shot guns before, and because that goes to your point of the attitude is no longer there.
Right. Right.
The attitude is no longer there. I'm a shitty student because I ask too much of the why.
Mhm.
Now knowing what I know is like, yeah, but why? Let's talk about why. This is what got us in trouble at fucking Dixie's event that one
Mhm.
time 'cause I kept asking why to that one dude that I didn't know was his very first fucking time ever teaching a fucking class. Um, and here I am,
And
but why?
not to nitpick too much, but he was he was trying to give off the persona of instructor, and you could tell that by the way he was dressed.
Yeah,
Like, he had his shooting jersey on. He
yeah,
had his, $500 battle belt set up and his fancy I think he had an M&P or something, red dot set up. He was
uh,
trying to give off the impression that he is knowledgeable and should be trusted just based on the way he looked.
looks, yeah,
And I see this a lot with instructors, um, and I've tried to consciously avoid this. So when I show up to teach, a lot of times people don't know I'm the instructor because I'm not dressed like the instructor. I'm not dressed up to show you that I'm the instructor. I'm wearing what I always wear:
a shirt that's too tight.
too tight t-shirt, some shorts that probably could get a little bit bigger.
Every time the ladies tell me like I can't appendix carry because I wear crop tops, I was like, oh, let me show you a picture of this dude. Uh, it's a picture of you.
Yeah. Um, Me and my tube top, we can hide a gun, no problem. Uh, but, like, I've learned this from the instructors that I consider mentors, and Pincus being one of them. When Pincus shows up, he looks exactly the same as he does if you were going out for a night on the town with
Yeah.
him, you know?
Suit and
Um,
tie.
yeah, suit and tie. And that serves a couple purposes. One is like, well, we're talking about concealed carry. Why would I dress differently to do this than I do when I'm concealed carrying? Why would I put on a $500 battle belt when I don't carry at Walmart like that? Everything that we're doing out here should work with you dressed in your regular clothes. Um, and the other thing is, I don't want to lean on appearance as a demonstration of my competency or authority
Correct.
in it. And going back to, the guy saying, "You don't have to worry about me today. You don't have to watch me." When I'm hanging out with anybody around firearms, I'm watching everything that they do. I
Yeah.
don't care who you are, I'm watching what you're doing. And part of that is just me understanding that when there's guns involved, I have a responsibility to take care of my own safety. And if somebody does something unsafe around me, I should see it happen, right? Like I should be aware that it's happening. So I'm watching everybody and their behavior, and I'm also kind of judging people based on what they're doing with the gun, how much I am going to listen to what they're saying. Because if you
Yeah.
tell me never point the gun at anything you're not willing to destroy, and then I see you handling a gun in a way that doesn't follow that rule, then I'm going to have to make a judgment that you don't really pay attention to the things that you're doing or saying. Um,
You're just
and
repeating.
and so I think the responsible thing to do is anytime a gun is involved, that you don't take anything for granted about somebody's competency.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we learn over time to identify risky behavior or risky attitudes as early as possible so that we can mitigate those risks. So,
Correct.
um, so Colion's point was, was that, but then he talked about a couple of specifics, and he was saying that in his home, his self defense guns don't really get messed with. Like his self defense guns stay staged where they are, and that he minimizes contact with those guns in order to make sure that those guns are ready to use, they stay ready to use, and he doesn't take the wrong attitude towards those guns. And I do think that that's generally speaking a pretty good mindset around your home,
Correct.
your self defense firearms. I had an oh shit moment the other day at a class when I went to demonstrate the reload, and I usually use my carry gun to demonstrate the reload because it limits gun handling. The gun's already on me. I already know it's loaded. I'm going to stage the magazines correctly for the demonstration. But I I presented the gun to the target and I pulled the trigger and it went click. And I just went through the process to do the reload. But it occurred to me, I was like, my carry gun was not loaded. And that's a consequence of the fact that I do use my carry gun in classes. And that means I have to change the condition of that gun, and that means that there's an opportunity for that gun to become unloaded when I believe that it should be loaded.
Yeah.
So something happened between the last time I did that or the last time I handled the gun and then going to demonstrate that the gun was not loaded. And I was like, "Whoa, that may be a reason why I need to rethink the way I do this demonstration." Um, there was some kind of breakdown in that system.
Yeah.
So I didn't.
Yeah. I always use another student's gun or a student's gun.
Yeah.
Not just for that reason, but it takes away from oh well, you're using your gun, so obviously you know how to reload your gun. So it's like I don't even know whose fucking gun this is.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a good point.
yeah, so because we've gotten that where people are like, yeah, it's your gun, you know how to reload it, you know the system. Like, no, I'll use fucking the gun I talk shit about the most. I'll use that one, and
So the
then
1911 or
the fucking oh yeah, I did it with a Beretta 92. I gave that dude so much shit. Like I don't know how the fuck people carry those.
oh man,
So
they're
fucking
so
heavy,
fucking heavy. Yeah.
heavy. But anyways,
You should do it with
I
the, Kel-Tec,
I did it once with the Caltech. with the shitty ass fucking double action only trigger. Garbage. SECY, kind of the same concept, but their trigger isn't bad. Like it's for what it is. For what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. The rest of the gun doesn't work that great, but
Correct. It's for what it is. I've done it
yeah.
with the skies or SCCYs, whatever the fuck they're called.
Yeah. So I Koyan also pointed out the whole reason he was doing this video is because a friend of his told him that he was, handling a gun at home. He was telling him the story about how he, pulled the trigger on this gun at home and then had a moment of realization that he not only hadn't checked the chamber, but in fact had a loaded magazine in the gun when he did it. The chamber wasn't loaded, but the gun itself had a magazine in it, and he was saying, "This is a guy who knows guns really well," and he had that lapse. He had that familiarity lapse where he took something for granted and he did something that was unsafe. Um, and that kind of thing can happen, but I think when you're thinking about the firearm as a potentially dangerous tool, no matter who is holding it, including you, that if you're going to pull the trigger on the gun, you need to verify the condition of the gun before you
Yeah.
do it, and only pull the trigger for a good reason. Only pull the trigger because you are function checking the gun, or only pulling the trigger because you are trying to identify an actual problem with the gun, not pulling the trigger because it's cool, not, or one that we see all the time is where people pull the trigger because they don't want the striker to be cocked on a gun for no
Which is
reason.
fucking dumb. I had a weirdo do that shit in class. Um, he was clearing the gun, and I was watching him. Or he was doing a reload. I'm sorry, which makes no fucking sense. What the fuck he did? So he's doing a reload. I'm fucking watching him. He doesn't know that I'm behind him watching him, and he drops his magazine, and the slides rack back because he's doing a reload. He releases the slide before he goes to the magazine. So this is about the time where like, oh, I need to teach reloads.
Yeah.
And then he presses the trigger. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? Like now I need you to stop.
Yeah.
You were doing retarded shit before, but now I need you to stop. He's like, well, I'm pressing the trigger so that what you said, the spring is like, but you're doing a reload. Like, what the fuck are you like? What's going through your fucking head? He's like, honestly, I don't know. Like, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Like, I'll fucking I'll take that. But if you don't know, just don't do it. Like let's not be dangerous here.
Yeah, I can't think of a worse situation where you're pulling the trigger and you don't know why.
Like it doesn't fucking make sense.
Yeah.
But this is what the industry does. The industry has a bunch of videos of humans clearing guns, and as soon as they clear the gun, the very first thing they do is press the fucking trigger.
Yeah.
They press the fucking trigger. The industry as a whole has made it acceptable to do dangerous shit. That's part of the routine where you're supposed to just press the trigger. Like, why? Like, explain to me why the fuck you're supposed to do that. And I've never had a valid reason as to why to do it. Like it's never been a valid reason. Never.
Yeah. So there's a competition shooter. His name is Hunter Constantine. Have you heard of him?
Sounds vaguely familiar.
He has a belt that he markets, a concealed carry belt. So it's the Hunter Constantine belt, and I
Okay.
have one, and it's okay. I'm not convinced it's worth the money I paid for it, but it has its benefits. But this guy's a hardcore competition shooter, and as a hardcore competition shooter, when you are competing and you finish the stage, what does the range safety officer require of you when you finish the stage?
Show clear
And then
and then press the trigger.
press the trigger.
Yeah.
And so he is shooting this video where he's standing behind his truck. So he's not on the shooting range, and he's talking about something. I can't remember what he's talking about, but he pulls his carry gun out of his holster, out of his appendix holster, and he takes the magazine out, racks the gun really fast, and then pulls the trigger with the gun pointed at the ground. So he can have a clear gun for the video. And so he is pointing the gun down, what is the purpose of pulling the trigger in that situation? There's
Yeah.
really no reason.
None.
The range safety officer is not telling him that he needs to do that. He's not following range rules when he's doing that. He is repeating a behavior that he routinely does because of range rules.
Yeah.
But he's not on the range.
He's not on the range.
And he did it really fast. So he removes the magazine, racks the slide, and almost in one continuous movement pulls the trigger. And if you asked him about it, he'd say, "Well, I saw the round come out." Well, that doesn't necessarily mean the chamber is empty.
Correct.
If you're going to pull the trigger on the gun, what does it cost you to visually look at the chamber and check the magazine well before you pull the trigger? Whatever the reason you did it is, what does it cost you to do that?
Correct.
And it doesn't cost you anything, but that's not the routine. The routine is that you did it in front of an RSO. He saw you do it. You point it downrange and pull the trigger because that's the range rule. And so this habit that he's built in competition is bleeding over into gun handling.
Correct.
And
that's just dangerous, man.
Right.
That's just dangerous.
And even if you just took the word dangerous out and you just said unnecessarily risky,
Yeah.
I think that drives home the point even better. You don't
Correct.
need to do that.
Yeah.
You're doing it because that's the behavior that you've trained yourself to do. And as much as you might disagree with the range rule, if you violate the range rule, you will get DQ'd. So you have to follow the range rule if you're going to compete. But then not only that, he's doing it because it's consistent behavior for him, but people are watching the video saying this guy is a high-level competitor. He has a lot of people following him. He demonstrates a lot of competency when it comes to shooting in competition. So therefore, pulling the trigger is the right thing to do because he does it.
Correct.
So it's that modeling behavior as well.
And I don't know why competitions still do that shit. Like it's I understand why they did it before. The back in the olden days, because of the hammers, right?
Mhm.
Most of the guns had hammers, and this was a way for them to know that single action guns, like nothing was going to happen. It was mostly safe, whatever. But like in 2025, even with hammered guns, there's no fucking reason for humans to do that in any way, shape, or form. There's other ways to accomplish the same goal. Even just keeping the slide back, like keep the fucking slide open. Like if you're really worried about that shit, there's in the holster, there's probably one, it's in the holster, so it's we're acknowledging this is safe. This is why we don't run a cold range. Like there's no such thing as a fucking cold range. Like you're at the fucking range. Guns, you're doing gun shit. So with these hammered guns, like it's in the holster. So if you're not fucking with it, who gives a fuck? So it's already safe. It's more safe in the holster than it is in your fucking hand. And then the other thing is if you just kept the slide open, like that's even more better than fucking pressing the trigger for sure. 100%.
Yeah. I actually had somebody pull their gun out of their holster to fuck with it for some reason.
Change a magazine, probably.
Probably when they were on the shooting line, but I was downrange. And and this is something where like I don't know how to set this up. We tell the people in the class, don't do anything I didn't tell you to do.
Yeah.
And don't handle guns in the loading area.
Correct.
Keep your guns in the holsters. The only time your gun should be out of the holster is when I tell you to take it out of the holster.
Yeah.
And then put the gun back in the holster. So you're having a situation where somebody is not listening to that. And not because they're malicious, just because, the range is I'm telling you a lot of things. But this person was thinking that they needed to make ready to shoot because they were on the shooting line. And to be honest, like this person had a couple other breakdowns in communication as well during the morning. Nothing, crazy.
Correct.
But I heard I heard the clicky clicky of a gun being handled when my back was to this person because I was I was talking about the targets, and I was saying balance is speed and precision, and I was pointing out a couple things on the targets and everything. And this wasn't like in the middle of a string of fire. This was before everybody had started to, or before we were about to do the next string of fire. But anyway, it was like there was a moment where I was like, did I fuck up? Did I miscommunicate somehow?
Yeah.
Or is this person just not paying attention?
Yeah.
Um, but I find this where people similar behavior that I've seen is when we're done shooting the exercise and then we're coming back and somebody wants to stay behind and unload their gun. And I turn around and, hey, I didn't tell you to unload your gun. And they're like, oh, well, I just would feel safer if it was unloaded. Like, I don't care how you feel about it. I didn't tell you to unload the gun, you know? Um, and one of these guys that was doing this in the last couple of months, he had trained, well, he was in the army for a while, and then he would trained with some military type people. And I think that generally speaking, in the military, when you're not on the shooting line, you have an unloaded gun.
An unloaded gun, yeah.
And so he was trying to break himself of that need to unload the gun
Yeah.
after we're done shooting. Uh, so, and this is somebody who'd been around guns a bunch, and he's shooting with another person in that class with somebody who had never touched a gun before. And I didn't have any safety issues with the person who had never touched a gun before. They
Go
followed
figure.
everything I told them to do.
Go
It was the
figure.
guy who had all that familiarity who was doing unsafe shit on the range because he thought it was safe, because he was like, I know safety, and safety is unloaded gun, so I'm gonna do that thing.
I'm going to unnecessarily unholster my gun,
Right,
unnecessarily handle the gun, unnecessarily press the fucking trigger. So I'm gonna do all kinds of shit that doesn't need to be done
right.
to be
Because I
safer.
have so much experience around firearms. So,
That's
um,
funny.
I'm thinking about making a video response to Colion and calling him out for all this stuff.
Yeah.
Uh, we'll see if I actually do it. Because it
I'll
might end up being a long video if I do this 30-minute video, and I'm like, I got things to say about almost everything he said in that video.
correct. Well,
So,
it's I'll text him and see if he
yeah,
wants to.
text him and tell him, like, about to drop some shit on him. Um, so
He won't respond, but I'll
no.
still text him.
Uh, but I just wanna caution people to understand where authority should come from, and like you said, it should come from the facts, not from the personality. It shouldn't come from attention, and oftentimes attention gets placed in places where it shouldn't. Not that Koyan hasn't earned the attention he has,
Correct.
but for what purpose? Are we talking entertainment? Because I watch his channel for entertainment.
Yeah.
I like the way he talks about guns. It's entertaining to me. Um, but I shouldn't be going to him for information regarding things like stuff that he's demonstrating doesn't have a full grasp of. So,
Well, I've been having this thought experiment with myself, but it's and I don't know how true it is, but it's one of the things that I've been convinced of more and more lately is that we as instructors, as people who share information, we are just that humans who share factual information. We're not here to really teach as much as just guide. I don't know. Um, I don't do a lot of reading. I don't do a lot of watching videos and shit like that as much as other humans do. But it's this very basic idea that I'm just here to guide you in the right direction. I'm just here to give you information that is factual, that's been proven, so that you can go study this on your own. Because without me teaching is like I can and I can instruct, like I know I can, but if you're not going to play your role, then we're just wasting each other's time. Like
yeah.
we're just wasting each other's time. And I think that's where the YouTubers come in, where it can't be more than just entertainment. We're on a fucking screen
Hmm.
telling people stuff. Some of it is education, but you're on YouTube, right? Like the education stuff gets done on different platforms. I'm sure you can learn. I'm not saying there isn't, but there's this idea of I'm watching this person because they're on YouTube, not because they're awesome at the information. and that's dangerous,
Yeah, I
or
think,
it can be.
yeah, I think it gets deep into the way the brain processes information, and, from all the way down to the honestly, all the way down to the cellular level, all the way up to the social dynamics
Yeah,
of humans,
correct.
and then throw in technology on top of that and the way that we interact with technology. It's very complicated stuff. Um,
Yeah,
and I think as humans, if you want to learn something about something, you probably want to go to the place that has the most information, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's the best information.
yeah,
Um, that's why people watch mainstream media because it's
correct,
always on and they're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff, but they're going to do an absolutely horrible job of it. And
correct.
you're going to think you're learning because you went to where the information is, but it's not the right information. It's not presented in the right way. Um, and so you're kind of doing the opposite of learning. You are in general confirming things you already believe.
Yeah, yeah, correct. It's just confirmation bias.
Confirmation bias. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been stuck on. Now that I don't have the office and I'm doing stuff here from home, it makes even more sense for me to have a network attached storage,
Hmm.
just to kind of separate my stuff from the family stuff and all that shit, and when we're out and about, and anyways, I can access information. So I've always known a little bit about network stuff. I don't know a ton, but what I've been doing is watching enough to guide me to where I need to go find the information, the words, the whatever,
Hmm.
and then just point me in the right direction. Like, I don't need you to tell me how to do it. I just need you to point me in the right direction, because until I do it, until I take it seriously on my own, then I'm just regurgitating what you're saying.
Yeah.
So
Regurgitation. Yeah.
that regurgitation is, it hinders me anyways, because like, I don't understand it. I'm just
Hmm.
doing what another human told me to do, and then it's gonna make me rely on what that person says all the fucking time, and I don't want that. I don't want to keep going back to YouTube. So I've been finding that the humans who have the least amount of followers, well, not like zero fucking followers and shit like that, but humans who have few followers often have better information, and it's presented more, less choreographed, less production, less fucking 30-second intros, and like, let's just fucking get down to it. This is what the fuck you need. Here's the storage, here's the software, fucking have fun.
Yeah. Yeah, if you're regurgitating, then you can't problem solve. And I think that's what we're running into is that the information is only good up to a point without the ability to actually use that information in unchoreographed ways.
Yeah,
And computer bugs are unchoreographed problems. And when I'm troubleshooting things in my house, like my furnace, I really should learn more about electricity. If I did, I'd be much better at solving these problems. But I don't really care that much. So I'm going to go for tell me what to replace, tell me how to install it, and that's good enough for me
yeah,
for that
for
context.
that context, yeah,
Um because I'm balancing my own time and
correct,
resources in how I'm going to solve this problem and at what point am I just going to hire somebody to come do the thing for me. But that did cost me with a problem that I had that I didn't know how to solve, and I knew that the repair tech, I knew he messed it up, but I didn't know how. I didn't know how to fix it. I didn't know how to tell the next repair tech what the other guy did wrong, but I knew he did it wrong. But that ends up costing me more money because I don't want to
correct,
put in the effort to actually learn this stuff.
correct.
So and all of this is really a balance of time and resources and interest. So I understand why people do it and I understand why I do it. But when it comes to something high stakes like this, like something like self-defense, we can't settle for the I'm just going to tell you what to do. Like you
Correct,
have to learn how to do this stuff. You
correct.
have to learn how to parse information and apply it and all of that. So yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from. And it's kind of like the idea of the difference between a teacher and a mentor.
Yeah,
A mentor is not going to give you all the answers. A mentor is going to tell you how to find the answers.
Correct.
And so, yeah, and that's again going back to the lowest common denominator. Most people aren't really looking for that. So they're going to go to the person who just tells them exactly what to do. And I had this problem in the last classroom class I had where I talk about why we don't talk about self-defense in terms of what the law says. And this person just kept coming up with scenarios where they're trying to get me to say what they can and cannot do.
But what if?
Yeah.
But what
What if,
if?
what if, what if? And I have to keep driving home the point to them that that is your problem to solve. It's not my problem to solve. I can't solve that problem for you.
Yeah.
I can only guide you to understanding the problem itself. So you will, if you're asking me under what circumstances you can do this, I can't answer that question for you.
Never.
So, but again, I mean, the right attitude I think as an instructor to have is to be patient, but also be firm in that. Understand where this person is coming from, but also not compromise what I'm doing. Because the easy
Correct.
thing would have been to just say, like, at some point, yeah, whatever, like, sure, you can do
Shoot him.
that. Shoot them.
Yeah.
Actually, what she was talking about was she was talking about other things like pepper spray and stuff. I'm like, I'm trying to explain to you that you're the one who has to make the self-defense decision for yourself. I can't make that for you. You have to be the one that makes that decision, and you have to be the one that takes the risk of that decision or
Correct.
not doing that thing. And understand that there is legal risk, and I'm laying out what some of that legal risk is,
Correct.
but only you can make that choice. So,
Yeah, for sure.
um, and actually, in the long run, I think it turned out to be a productive discussion in the class, even though I was getting a little frustrated with it. So, because you never know who else is sitting there who's thinking the same thing, but doesn't want to be the one to ask the question.
Correct.
So, um, she's the brave one for arguing. And she's the brave one for putting it out there continuously that she doesn't get it, because some people don't want to admit that they don't get it.
Correct. Yeah, I love nothing more than a self-aware human.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know I'm being retarded, but I need to have this conversation.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had those students, and I've seen people get frustrated with him, and I've had to stop class, and I'll be like, "Look, you guys are getting frustrated at the person asking questions, but, like, that's the fuck we're here for, so either you ask questions or this person's gonna continue asking questions." Like, what
Yeah.
the
Well,
fuck
not
that.
only that, but every time this person asks the same question, even though they do use different words, because they're just not getting it, is an opportunity for people who are getting it to
Correct.
confirm that they understand.
Correct.
They know this is a stupid question because they're getting the repetitions in their head on how you would answer this question.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
If in fact you are getting it. If you're just annoyed because you think this is taking up time and you don't care, then nobody can help you.
Nobody.
You're stuck in your ignorance.
Correct.
But if you're sitting there thinking, "Oh, I know what he's about to say. I know what the instructor is going to answer on this," then hopefully that means you're starting to internalize this information,
Correct.
or these thought processes.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, listening to somebody like Colion go through this safety thing is an opportunity for me to say, I think I know what he's about to say, and I think this is why he's wrong before he actually even says it, because I
Correct.
know where the thought process is taking him. So,
Well,
um,
make the video even if it's 30 fucking minutes long.
yeah, I will.
Do it.
So, all right, I think we covered quite a bit.
Quite a
A little
bit.
bit off on our time today. That's my fault as usual. And
Yeah, yeah, there's shit going on. I'm on both ends, to be honest with you. I just didn't tell you about my shit because I let it be your fault.
yeah, that's fine.
So this is a recorded episode. We will premiere it. Obviously, if you're watching it, you're watching the premiere. But both Isaac and I had shit going on today, and this worked out better. We'll try not to make a habit out of it, but it is what it is. I think I prefer this over canceling.
Yeah, yeah,
And
definitely.
redoing them. I'd rather do it live, but it's this. I think this is a good second option. I think this is the first time we've done it like this.
First time in a long time, at least, and I
Yeah,
definitely missed the questions, and I missed the
correct.
interactions from the people who do comment, so
Yeah, and from last week, I missed the $20 for showing my nipples. I think I guess you could still do that. Hit the fucking super thanks or
Yeah.
the super chat or the fucking I can't show you nipples this time, but whatever.
So for
Uh,
anybody who, has a hard time catching this podcast on YouTube, you can find it on some of the other podcast apps. First, personally, I use, AntennaPod, and I can find this podcast on AntennaPod,
I
and
haven't uploaded last episode. This has been fucking crazy.
well, I always
Fucking
give you, a little bit of grace around that because I know that you are way busier, and I'm not the one that's volunteered to do the posting, so
so I need to fucking upload last episode and then I'll upload this one as well.
all right. Well, thanks everybody for paying attention and listening, and we'll see you guys on the next one.
Peace out, guys.
Peace.